Ron Slay is about to lead us in a Weagle, War Damn Eagle cheer, I think, after Auburn has vanquished the Tennessee Volunteers this weekend. Let's talk basketball. This SEC is so much fun every freaking day and night.
Yeah, Dunaway, first of all, Slay, hope you're doing well, buddy. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, boy, I'll tell you what. I don't need it from you all. You know, my co-host is Dawn Davenport. So not only have I been getting it from her and all the Auburn fans, but I've also got it from kids. I've had kids give me messages doing man.
And you had to sit with Fish. Yeah. You had to sit with Fishback the whole game. I mean, you couldn't get away from it, could you?
And you know what? Fish is so unassuming. Like, he sits there like he's so cool, calm, and collected. But I saw his stomach doing flips while he was watching the game. Like, he wasn't nervous at all. So I know the real Fish.
Hey, you thought that shot was going in, though, didn't you? You thought Ziegler's shot was in?
Oh, it did. It went in and came right back out, man. That was a heck of a game, though, man. Like, when especially a guy that grew up, watching the WWF and Royal Rumbles and things like that. Like, that was right up my alley, boy. All I needed was them to put time on the clock and say 4, 3, 2, 1, and here comes the wrestler down the lane. That's all. I was right on board with me.
Slay, the good news is, being a Tennessee fan, is you're always a top 10 team and you've got a really high seed. But the bad news is watching this product. And again, let me pull that back. It's not a bad product. It's just aesthetically, it's not fun to watch. And we were talking about this. We talked about it last week. We talked about it earlier on the show. It's just got to be difficult for a Tennessee fan to watch 53-51 losses.
Yeah, and I know one thing too. Not to look too far ahead, but man, Tennessee fans better hold on to it, because at some point Rick Barnes will walk away, and all of this, what you're saying, being ranked in the top 25, ranked in the top 10. You'll need somebody else to come in and fill those shoes. But I do think that it is difficult at times. I think that's what it was so much fun watching Dalton connect last year. And he was the separator in those games. And in a game when you talk about freedom of movement, like that's for his style. Somebody to give him the ball and face up and go one-on-one, the floor wide open. That's not necessarily the style of players he has right now. The guys he's recruited are system-like guys. They are coming into it, but the way his system works is more about body movement that frees you up and ball movement that frees you up, more so than giving a guy the ball and say, go get me a bucket. So, I mean, it is difficult to watch, and you know what he hangs his hat on, and that's defense. So the defense is what carries you. You would also expect for the aggressive style of defense that they play to be able to get out and run a little bit more. So I don't know what's happened to that. So it is a lot of questions about it, man. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what are you looking for as a Tennessee fan? You looking for results, or you looking for fireworks?
I feel anxious again. It feels like you're in your wife's office again. Is she in a good mood this morning? We got plenty of time. Are we on the clock? Or
no, we good this morning. I've drawn up a contract until we get the Wi-Fi up in the boom boom room.
Very good.
I can do what I want to in this office.
Hey, before she comes in and turns the lights off on you, limited half-court movement is the way I saw the description of what Tennessee did to Auburn. Is there another team in the league that could Auburn runs a lot of exotic half-court sets. Yeah. Is there another team in the league that can take that away from Auburn, you think, in the half-court?
I think there's teams that want to, and when you look at them, I would think Mississippi State would love to. I think Texas A&M is a team that would love to, because of the style of defense that they play. Texas A&M plays a funky style of defense where they push everything towards the baseline. So you kind of want to stay off the wing when you're Auburn. Mississippi State, they want to play with that same physicality. The matchups and things of that nature is just, it's hard, man. When you can't score or you're turning the ball over against Auburn, it's hard to get set. And I think one of the things that helped in this matchup, Auburn just missed a lot of open shots too. Tennessee, the same. A lot of the shots were contested, but a lot of shots that they make throughout the year, you'll take that all day long. Tahad Pettiford getting some good looks. Also, Miles Kelly getting some good. He made them. He made the two that really mattered the most. But I thought it was. I thought it was an adaptive game for Auburn. I think there's other teams that would love to slow them down because you keep them out of the 80s and 90s, you got a better opportunity. But it's more fun watching Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, and Auburn playing at the style they play. If you're a fan of it, though.
Ron Slay is with us, SEC Network and ESPN at the Ron Slay on social media is where you find him. There'll be a similar line of questioning when we get around to Alabama, but this win for Auburn was not without a little bit of drama with Jahki Howard getting into it a little bit with his head coach being sent to the locker room. You know Bruce Pearl very well. How difficult is that to handle as a head coach when it's that obvious a situation with a guy that's averaging 12 minutes a game for you?
Man, I think it's just difficult in this generation of athlete, as high strung as Coach Pearl and as locked in as he is while watching the game and coaching the game. It's hard to bring your disposition, if you will, back down to say, all right, let me settle down and talk to one of my players. I mean, you can't really do that, not in that high intense of a game. So Jahki Howard, man, I mean, you hate for this to have to happen, but I think we've seen this before. And that's when you need to bridge the system set in with the coaches, the assistant coaches, to be able to go grab the kids and talk to them and be able to try to, keep them settled, because the coach can't coach the game and be a guidance counselor at the same time, especially Bruce Pearl. That just doesn't work for him. He's too locked in, too into the game, got to talk to the officials, got to get the plays in. It's too much going on to try to console a guy at that time. So hopefully Howard gets it done, because the talent that he has, man, is next level. But I think at some point, man, the attitude got to match the talent, and hopefully moving forward, he will be able to do that.
You were a former big that's dealt with an ankle situation, and you saw Broom go down on the 11th, so, from the game 2 weeks before. And I think a lot of people expected that he would play some, but to come out 33 minutes and go for 16 and 13 and to put forth that effort, I mean, just explain, as a big going on that ankle for the first time in live action and to have that kind of production, I mean, that was a hell of a performance.
That was amazing. That was amazing, man. I thought he did a terrific job of playing to his pace. Tennessee did a terrible job of speeding him up and putting him into action. Auburn did a great job of covering up for him, switching out when guys had to go out and defend the pick and roll, having another big go up there and do it. Offensively, man, Coach Pearl did some great jobs as far as sets of getting him straight line. The curl, one play that I know for sure that Beckham Azar set the down screen and he curled around it. It was a straight line curl after that, and he got straight to the rim. So that was huge on Coach Pearl, putting him in those situations. But when you're big like that, man, you need the adrenaline to continue to go. Them playing at home was big. It being a top 10 matchup was big. Game day being there early, that was big. So you could also see when it was time to walk, it looked like he was a pirate walking the plank. But when it was time to run, he was fine as far as movement goes. So it's one of those things, man, when you slow down and stop, it starts throbbing. But as long as you keep moving at a rapid pace, you can kind of manage the pain. And he did a terrific job of it, man. I thought I would have loved to see him have to, and that, like, I know this is easier said than done, but I would have loved to see him have to fight for a position on the post, get into some screen and roll actions, some rescreen actions if you were the team that he was having to guard, like Tennessee in this case. So they need to do a better job of attacking that. But, man, you're looking at the National Player of the Year. I know Cooper Flagg is doing some phenomenal things, but for this right here, this is one of those Heisman moments. This almost brings you back to the time Byron Leftwich was out there battling, and his offensive line had to carry him to the next play. Like that was similar to that for me. That was a National Player of the Year moment.
Last time you were carried, was it out of a bar or on a course?
No, the last time I was carried was I was trying to crowd surf. That didn't go so well, so I was carried and dropped.
Oh, you got to tell us where you were crowd surfing.
Well, it was at Auburn, right?
No, yeah, it was Auburn.
Yeah.
I wanted to get up. Y'all didn't get to see behind the scenes. I wanted to get up in the air. The coconut man couldn't lift me. So I just went on down. I just went on down.
He needs better. He needs bigger shells to lift you up. The great
Bigger
Ryan,
strength, man. You gotta get in a weight program.
the great Ron Slay is with us. Big words there on being National Player of the Year and Janai Broom. Auburn wins on TV2. In your studio, Alabama holds off LSU 80-73. When you see a player like Mark Sears sit the entire second half, what's going through your head?
Ooh, what is going on? That's exactly what. Wait a minute. But I also think that, man, we saw this throughout the year with Coach Oates. When you think back about 4 or 5 games ago, Alabama came out of halftime and was supposed to run a play and didn't do it. Coach Oates called the timeout immediately and met his team at half court and subbed all of them out with a platoon sub. That's you're granted that you're granted that when you have the opportunity to have all Americans coming off the bench, a guy like Prince Youngblood to come in that is a conference player of the year. You're getting other guys involved that like Aiden Holloway, who's a transfer over. So you got other guys that can come in there and fill that void. Now, I'm not for pushing forward, and this be a lesson that needs to be taught over and over and over, but I think it's early enough in the season, and I think also Mark Sears is mature enough to be able to handle it and respond the correct way, being the leader of this bunch. You can't do this with everybody. If you do this with certain players, you lose them for the year. You not only lose them for that game, you lose them for the year, and you maybe lose the locker room alongside with it. In this particular situation, I think Coach Oates has a relationship with his players. His coaching staff has a relationship with his players that they understand that nothing is to show you up. You know, this is my opinion. I believe that Coach Oates has that conversation with him, and Mark Sears responds. He is the leader of this bunch. They want to make it to a Final Four again. You will not make it without Mark Sears. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So hopefully the lesson is learned, whatever that lesson may be. And I think Mark Sears, man, is a veteran. You don't score 2,000 points, man, and not have some bumps in the road along the way. This is nothing more than that.
And you mentioned the luxury, Slay, of having Aiden Holloway and LeBaron Philon. We know how you feel about Philon. You just talked about
Philon.
He's your guy. You just talked about Holloway. I mean, Nate Oates also knew. I'm with you, and I said this earlier in the show. People are like, boy, what if this sends Mark Sears in the wrong direction? Nate Oates is an exceptional basketball coach. I think he knew it wouldn't. I think that's why he does this.
Yeah.
And he also knew, I've got good enough guards behind him. I can win this game with those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, you don't want to give any games away. Now, no knock to Coach McMahon and McMahon and his staff, all players over at LSU, but I doubt you're able to be awarded this luxury if you're playing Florida or you're playing Kentucky on the road, or you had an opportunity, you were able to send a message, kind of all aligned for you. You were able to do that and walk away with the victory, knowing the games that you got coming up, this next stretch run for you. So I think the run they got between bookends with Auburn, playing Auburn and then ending with Auburn is, I think, 5 top 25 matchups. So I think it's best you try to get a grasp on everything right here and right now. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Like you know your players. It's the same thing when you watch Coach Barnes come out into a post-game presser and talk about one of his players like Chaz Lanier and tell him, I told him, you don't want to shoot, you get paid to shoot. So you sit down over here next to me. Like, you know your players. That conversation's been had in the locker room, and it's going to be had even more. You know who can handle what.
20 games into the season and 7 games into the conference schedule. Bigger surprise, Missouri at 16-4, 5-2 in conference, or Arkansas at 12-8 and 1-6 in conference?
Man, that is a tough one, man. I think you split hairs with it, man. I think when you look at Dennis Gates, you know exactly what he's capable of. I think when you watch him last year, they had so many injuries that nobody was taking into account because the losses were so magnified. You didn't have time to look at the bench and be like, oh, where's Caleb Grill? No, everybody, we really forgot about Caleb Grill. You forgot about him bringing guys back, being able to dive into the transfer portal, and the people he go get in the transfer portal, like Williams. You look at him and say, hey, man, don't look at what our record was, but look what the product is when you come to watch our practices, what we want to do. We want to get back to this. So I'm not as surprised about Dennis Gates because he's a fighter, and his team is a reflection of him. You watch all these guys, Tamar Bates, Anthony Robinson, all of these guys, they act and talk just like him. So I'm not going to say that's much as a surprise. I am a surprise when it comes to the talent level not being able to get the victory with Coach Cal at the helm, especially the way they're losing. Coach Cal, when his teams are good defensively, they're one of the top in the country. That's not the case right now. You got 3 7-footers down low, and you can't protect the basket. That's amazing to me. Boogie Flan just went out, but with him, I thought the dynamic duo with him and DJ Wagner in the backcourt was going to be next level. And then you add a guy in like Jonell Davis. What I'm seeing at Florida is kind of what I thought a glimpse of it would be looking into Arkansas, but it's not, man. So how do you come back from it? It's the real question. I think I'm a guy that believes in what your eyes show you. I'm not a numbers guy, and my eyes show me, man, that it's some tough sledding for Arkansas down the stretch, man. I'm trying to see how they get to 5 games won.
Speaking of numbers, in your entire life, have you ever led by 22 in the second half and lose a basketball game? That's what happened to A&M on the road against rival Texas. They're up 22 in the second half, and they lose that game. How does that happen? What has to go wrong for you?
Man, that's tough. I think going on the road, I think for fans watching, they don't understand how difficult it is to win on the road, that being 1. 2, that being a rivalry. 3, Coach Rodney Terry every single day preaches, stay right there in the moment. Do not look ahead. So I can imagine him coming out of halftime telling the guys, if you look up at the score, I'm taking you out of the game. Do not look at the score. We're playing basketball. Stick with that. And then it also helps to have a guy smooth as you can find as Trey Johnson. Good gosh, this young man, his level, I wish they could put the little test that they put on when they're in practice that keeps the heart rate. I would love to see what his heart rate is throughout a game, man, because it's got to be steady. This man never gets too high, never gets too low. And to be a freshman, he is phenomenal. A&M, they get a little stagnant. I think it's something that they're trying to figure out also with Zerk Phelps and Wade Taylor, how they play together. Because without each other, man, they tough. You got 2 Batmans on the team. How can they get efficient enough to play together and continue to keep Texas A&M rolling? But I also think, man, you can't put too much stock into it. It's a road loss. As long as you take care of home, you'll find it is difficult to win on the road, man. I will say too, though, I've never lost by 22, but I have squandered the season being number 4 in the nation and then getting bounced in the first round of the tournament. So
I'd rather lose by 22. Yeah.
Who'd you lose to? Do you remember?
We lost to Charlotte my sophomore year. Rodney White,
oh wow,
Joby Thomas, and those guys in Charlotte. Rick Pitino was doing the game. I still can't stand Rick Pitino because he was commentating the game, doing the color, sitting by our bench, and he was talking crazy about us, and it was like we couldn't hear it. I didn't know he didn't know he like Rick. Nobody's at the game. We're playing in Dayton. You know what I mean? It's an 8-9 game, and nobody's there that early. We can hear everything you're saying, and the wildest thing was, I know a little bit of that was that Kentucky falling out of.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Kentucky and Tennessee. So he didn't want us to win, but he was jinxing us. He was jinxing.
So have you had a conversation with him since that game, though?
No. I would love to, though, and let Coach Pitino know. I can't stand them from that game. All we needed to do was it was one of those situations, you get a win and everything will get on track.
Yeah.
And he kept on saying, I'm not sure if I would put such and such in the game right now. Oh boy, Slay, watch Slay right now. It was like, I'm like, come on, dog. Just call the game, man. Quit worrying so much about the details of our guys over here.
Here's the great Ron Slay. The Ron Slay on social media is where you find him. See him on the SEC Network at ESPN. Thank you very much, Slay. Always enjoy the time.
Appreciate it, fellas.
All right, buddy. Take care. Have a great week. Ron with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.